What the mind of a person can imagine and truly believe, it can achieve. It almost sounds too bold, doesn't it? How could something as simple as belief turn an ordinary person into someone capable of building an entire fortune? And what if I told you that you might be living far below your real potential simply because you don't know how to apply this idea? Today, we're going to talk about 5 steps that can lift you out of mediocrity and set you on the road to wealth, as taught by Napoleon Hill and proven true by the stories of those who dared to believe. Stop and think for a moment. How many times have you killed your own dreams before they even left your mind? That's exactly what we're going to explore, because even if it sounds cliché, your greatest asset or your worst enemy is your mind. The way you nurture the ideas that pass through it defines every single day who you'll become tomorrow. Have you noticed how most of us wake up in the morning and immediately start thinking about our problems, debts, and fears? Without realizing it, we end up watering precisely those seeds. It's as if, brick by brick, we build an invisible prison made entirely of our thoughts. Napoleon Hill taught that success takes root in the mind long before it shows up in your bank account. And this isn't empty theory. Scientifically, studies by the American Psychological Association show that people who practice positive thinking have about 31% greater chances of reaching financial goals. It's as if the mind works like a magnet. What you nurture on the inside tends to become the reality you see on the outside. Now tell me honestly, do you usually feed thoughts like, "It won't work," "It's way too hard for me," "I'm not good enough"? Or do you focus on questions like, "How can I make this happen?" Who could help me? What's the next step? It might seem like a small detail, but it isn't. Every repeated negative thought builds a wall that keeps you from taking action, and every positive thought opens a door. Napoleon Hill lived this himself. Back when he was just a journalist, with no money and no recognition, he decided to interview Andrew Carnegie. Many told him he was wasting his time, that nobody would ever listen to him. But Hill went anyway. And from that decision came a work that has changed millions of lives. Imagine if he had let fear win and given up. You might not even be hearing this story now. This real-life example shows that the turning point almost always happens in the unseen, inside the mind. Now, if you're thinking, "But that's just who I am, I'm negative, I can't change," know that science shows this isn't permanent. The mind is plastic, it can be reprogrammed. A study published in the Journal of Cognitive Enhancement found that people who practice thought restructuring can reduce self-criticism and boost self-confidence in just a few weeks. You don't have to be born an optimist. You have to train your mind. And how do you train it? First, start paying close attention to what you think every day. It's like watching over a garden. Whenever you catch yourself thinking, "I can't," replace it immediately with, "How can I?" It sounds simple, but that question has an almost magical power because it shifts your focus from scarcity to possibility. Instead of feeding fear, you plant the seed of curiosity. Besides that, use practical tools. Every day, visualize in detail what you want to achieve. But don't just see it like a distant movie. Feel the emotions as if it were already your reality. Your brain cannot really tell the difference between a real emotion and one that is vividly imagined. So when you picture yourself as victorious, it begins working to make that vision real. Strengthen this with affirmations, simple statements that, when repeated, gradually replace old negative beliefs. Maybe you're thinking this sounds a bit mystical, but it's not. It's brain training. This is what Hill described as taking charge of your mental environment. Because those who don't do this inevitably end up controlled by outside circumstances, economic downturns, other people's opinions, fears, bad news. Have you noticed how people often say it's impossible because of the crisis, taxes, or politics, yet there are always a few who manage to thrive even during those times. Do you know what sets them apart? It isn't luck, it's mindset. Now here's the most powerful detail. Mental discipline isn't something you do once and you're done. It's a daily practice, just like going to the gym. If you stop, the old patterns creep back in. That's why Hill said the mind must be guarded like someone tending a garden, every single day, pulling out weeds and watering what you want to grow. And if you think it's too late to change, remember this. Hill wrote part of his most famous books after going through bankruptcies, harsh criticism, and even periods of deep depression. He had to apply in real life what he taught to lift himself up again. To wrap up, ask yourself right now honestly, what thought has been dominating your mind the most? And then ask, is this thought bringing me closer to or pushing me away from the life I want? If you want to change your financial life, your career, and even your emotions, start here. Master your mind, because it is what builds or destroys everything you'll live from now on. And the choice, even if it feels hard, is still yours. Have you noticed most people spend their whole lives setting goals that fit perfectly inside their comfort zone? They want to trade their car, but they're fine waiting a few years. They want a promotion, but they don't dare ask. They want to start a business, but they'd rather wait until they're sure it'll work. That's how you build an average life, by always picking what feels safe. And the irony is that even then, fear never really goes away. Napoleon Hill said that goals that don't scare us are too small to change our reality. It's like trying to cross an ocean by rowing only as far as you can still see the shore. Think about it. What was the last goal you set that truly made your stomach drop with nerves? Most people would answer they can't remember. And it isn't because they lack ability, but because they lack the courage to want something so big it sounds ridiculous to even tell someone else. Yet it's exactly those kinds of goals that create real transformation. If it doesn't scare you, it isn't big enough to force you to grow. Hill argued that small goals are dangerous because they keep us stuck right where we are. They don't demand learning, they don't spark creativity, they don't make you wake up eager to take action. They only fill space on that list of New Year's resolutions that never gets done. Now imagine setting a goal not just to earn a little more money, but to build a fortune big enough to change your family's story. Does that scare you? Of course it does. And it's that fear that shows you're reaching beyond what you think you can do. Because if it were comfortable, it wouldn't have the power to change you. And when fear shows up, that's a sign you're heading the right way. Fear shouldn't mean stop. It should be seen as a sign to pay attention and keep going anyway. That feeling shows you're pushing beyond your comfort zone, and there's nothing mystical about it. Let's look at this practically. Imagine you want to save $1 million. Sounds impossible. Then break it down. How much is that per year? How much per month, per week? When you turn a massive goal into smaller daily actions, what once felt impossible starts to seem within reach. The goal stays huge, but the steps become clearer. That's how you build a system, something you do every single day, no matter how you feel. The real issue is that most people confuse a dream with a goal. A dream is vague. It lives in the land of wouldn't it be nice if. A goal, on the other hand, is something you commit to chasing even on the days you feel no motivation. And true commitment demands more than just desire. It needs a deadline, a plan, and daily action. Without these, it turns into a fantasy. Napoleon Hill once wrote that dreaming is easy, but real commitment is what separates those who achieve from those who only wish. And here's something people rarely mention. When you set a goal that feels truly big, the first thing to show up isn't a miracle. It's fear, doubt, criticism from others, and sometimes even failure. And that's perfectly okay, because failure isn't the opposite of success. It's part of the journey. If you study the lives of those who changed the world, you'll see that nearly every one of them failed many times before they got it right. Edison failed thousands of times before he lit a single bulb. Steve Jobs was fired from the very company he founded. What did they share? Goals so large they kept trying no matter what. Maybe right now you're thinking, but what if I fail? Let me tell you something important. At some point you will fail, but in this case failure becomes a stepping stone. Every mistake brings you a lesson you'd never learn by standing still. Hill believed that every defeat carries within it the seed of an equal or even greater success, but only those who dare to plant, reap. And those who plant are always the ones bold enough to set goals bigger than their own fears. Then there's the fear of looking foolish, because when you speak out loud about a goal that sounds too big, there will always be someone ready to laugh, doubt you, or try to pull you back to reality. That's when you must remember, most people will project their own fears onto you. Those who never dared to try will say you can't do it either. And if you listen to those voices too closely, you'll slip right back into mediocrity. Now here's something interesting. A study from Dominican University showed that people who write down their ambitious goals and review them often have 42% higher chances of achieving them compared to those who just keep them in their minds. This proves the secret isn't just to dream, but to turn that dream into something you can see, read, remember, and most importantly, act on every single day. Want to know if your goal is truly big enough? Ask yourself if it scares you and at the same time makes your heart beat faster. If it doesn't, it's probably too small. And if it's too small, it will keep you exactly where you are now. The purpose of a goal isn't to be easy. It's to force you to grow into someone greater so you can reach it. To finish, let me suggest something right now. Choose a goal that truly scares you, but also makes your eyes light up. Then break it into steps. What must happen this year, this month, this week, and today? And then, no matter the fear, begin. Because those who act despite fear keep growing. Those who wait for fear to disappear never move forward. Deep down, anyone who stays stuck in the average is always choosing the comfort of safety. Those who build a fortune choose courage. And the real question is, what choice will you make? Have you ever noticed how so often you know exactly what you should do to change your life, yet somehow you just don't do it? It feels as if there's some invisible force pulling you right back onto the couch, into procrastination, into that comfortable feeling of, I'll take care of it later. And this is where perhaps one of the most overlooked secrets of those who want to build wealth comes into play: self-discipline. Napoleon Hill used to say that what separates the dreamers from the achievers isn't talent, intelligence, or even luck. It's the ability to act even when you don't feel like it. Because everyone wants, but very few are truly willing to do what needs to be done when nobody's watching, when your body aches, when sleep weighs heavy, when fear knocks at the door. Picture, for instance, how many times you've decided to start something important, studying for an exam, investing in a business, learning a new skill. In those first few days, motivation runs high. It's exciting to make plans, to buy books, to watch videos. But then comes the third or fourth day when fatigue shows up and it becomes easy to invent an excuse. Today won't work out, I'll make up for it tomorrow. But then tomorrow turns into next week. And little by little, that dream that once felt so important gets pushed aside until it becomes just a memory. Almost everyone falls into this trap. Studies published in the Journal of Personality show that the majority of people abandon new goals in less than 30 days. And the main reason isn't lack of ability, but rather the absence of discipline. Because discipline doesn't rely on feeling motivated. It's precisely what you do on those days when motivation vanishes. And here's something interesting. Discipline isn't born ready. It's built. It's like a muscle. The more you train it, the stronger it becomes. The hardest part is the beginning, when your body and mind want to slip back into the old pattern. Hill used to say that the greatest victory of all is winning over yourself. Because the one who masters their own impulses masters their destiny. Think about a high-level athlete. They don't train only when they wake up feeling enthusiastic. They train every single day, rain or shine. It's the routine that shapes the outcome. The same holds true for anyone seeking financial success. The investor who achieves financial independence isn't the one who makes one brilliant investment once. It's the one who invests every month, even when the amount feels small, even when it feels boring. It's repetition that creates the miracle, not the rare exception. But why is it so hard to keep discipline? Because it requires giving up immediate rewards in exchange for something that will only come later. Want an example? Spending another hour watching shows right now feels delightful. Getting up early to study or work on your project feels tiring. Yet a few years from now, that single hour could mean the difference between still complaining about your life or actually living what you once only dared to dream. And here's a detail that almost no one notices. Those who are disciplined end up feeling less stressed. It sounds contradictory, but it isn't. Lack of discipline breeds guilt, the feeling of always being behind, of never keeping promises to yourself. Discipline, on the other hand, creates calm, because it turns promises into habits. You stop depending on your mood or sheer willpower, and you start acting on autopilot. Napoleon Hill, even after going through enormous financial and personal difficulties, kept the discipline to write every single day. It is told that even without money to pay rent, he would sit down to write as if nothing else existed. That persistence turned his notes into books that have sold millions of copies around the world. If he had waited to feel ready or motivated, he might never have written a single line. Now maybe you are thinking, but I am lazy. I have never been able to stick with anything for very long. And I tell you, that does not define who you are. Discipline is not talent, it is training. Start small, keeping a set wake-up time, not skipping your workout even if it is short, saving a fixed amount every month even if it seems little. These small victories shape your character until acting without wanting to becomes part of who you are. And do you know why this makes such a difference in building wealth? Because money is not the result of luck. It is the consequence of repeated behaviors. Spending less than you earn, investing regularly, studying continuously, adjusting your course when something goes wrong. All of this demands discipline. Without it, even those who earn a lot of money can lose everything, and this is not theory. How many stories exist of people who got rich quickly and lost it all because they lacked emotional structure and discipline to maintain it? Hill said that ultimate failure only happens when you accept to stop trying. As long as there is action, there is a possibility of victory. And discipline is precisely what keeps you moving when emotion wants to stop you. It is like building a road. Each small brick seems insignificant, but together they create the path that leads to the destination you want. Now stop and think. How many things in your life would have been different if you had kept discipline for 6 months? And imagine how your life will be in 1 year, 5 years, if you start practicing it now. That is where the real power lies. Not in what you do when you are excited, but in what you keep doing when no one sees, when fear and tiredness hit. In the end, there is no magic formula. There is the daily choice to do what needs to be done. You may not be the most talented, you may not be the smartest, but if you are the most disciplined, you will inevitably go farther than most. And when you look back, you will realize that the difference between staying average and building wealth was not luck, not talent. It was discipline. That silent choice you make every day, even when no one applauds. Think with me. How many times have you shared a big idea, a bold plan, and heard from someone close? What for? Don't complicate it. It will fail. It is almost automatic. And do you know why it hurts so much? Because it comes from those we care about. But Hill taught that those who want to get out of average first need to understand that some people prefer to stay there. And if you do not watch out, you will end up inheriting their fears, excuses, and even limitations. Look around you now. Do the people closest to you complain more or plan more? Do they talk about problems or solutions? Do they think about the end of the month or what they want to build in the next 5 years? This matters more than it seems, because living together normalizes behaviors. If everyone around you spends more than they earn, living in debt starts to seem normal. If everyone thinks working is just to pay bills, having ambitions starts to seem like arrogance. Without noticing, you start to sabotage yourself to not be too different. Now, this does not mean you have to abandon everyone or become antisocial. It means making a conscious decision about who will influence your thoughts. And this goes far beyond physical contact. You can bring mentors close to you, even if they don't know you personally, by reading books, watching lectures, or joining groups where thinking big is the rule, not the exception. When you expose yourself to this kind of environment, something changes inside. Big goals start to seem possible. Discipline begins to feel natural, and results appear achievable. There is a powerful detail that few people talk about. The energy of the people around you also matters. Have you ever noticed how it feels to be near someone who only complains? It feels like you get heavier, less willing. Now think about how it is to talk with someone who speaks with sparkle in their eyes, who believes they can, who sees solutions instead of problems. You walk away lighter, with the urge to take action. This is no coincidence. It is biology. Our brain mirrors behaviors and emotions, and those who understand this choose much more carefully where to spend their time. And it's no use saying, but so-and-so is family, I can't change that. You don't have to cut ties, but you can find balance. If you spend hours listening to those who bring you down, spend even more time listening to those who lift you up, even if it's through videos, books, or podcasts. It's like counteracting poison with an antidote. It's also worth seeking mentors. They don't need to be famous. They can be someone who is already at the level of discipline, results, or mindset that you want to reach. The simple fact of talking, observing decisions, understanding mistakes and successes saves years of blind attempts. Hill said that what speeds up the attainment of a fortune the most is not just technical knowledge, but the wisdom absorbed from those who have already traveled the path. And there is a question that must be asked with courage. Do the people closest to you celebrate your victories or diminish your plans? Because those with an average mindset feel bothered when they see someone beside them growing. Meanwhile, those with a growth mindset cheer for others' progress because they understand that success is not a zero-sum game. Everyone can win. In the end, surrounding yourself with excellence is not a luxury, it is strategy. If you want extraordinary results, you need to live where the ordinary feels insufficient. And this choice is not a one-time thing, it is daily. It is about noticing who is nearby, who you follow, what you read, who you talk to at coffee time. Each small choice adds up. And suddenly you will realize that talking about big goals no longer seems like exaggeration, that disciplining your habits no longer feels like sacrifice, that believing in yourself becomes natural. That is when you will understand, in practice, what Hill meant. Nobody builds a fortune alone. We first build it in the mind, but maintain and multiply it in the right environment. And the question remains, will you stay where you are or choose to surround yourself with those who remind you every day that you can do more? Nobody creates an extraordinary life by remaining surrounded by the ordinary. Everything begins in the mind but flourishes when you consciously choose who will inspire you, challenge you, and remind you every day that you can do more than you imagine. And since you have come this far, don't stop now. The next video appearing on your screen will help you climb one more step in your evolution. to become at least 1% better than you are today. Thank you very much for following me this far, and I'll be waiting for you there so we can continue together on this journey.